Welcome to Sad Boys, a podcast about feelings and other things also. I'm Jarvis.
Howdy. I'm every episode.
But you were sideways that time. Yeah, I don't know why you had to do it like that.
It's a really heavy whip.
Okay, it's a heavy whip. He's trying to bring back Howdy. Maybe
I have brought back Howdy.
we're joined today by a very special guest, Rhett McLaughlin.
Howdy.
Did I pronounce your last name
Hey,
right?
it's catching on.
That was so much better.
Rhett, yes, that's right.
But no,
McLaughlin.
You said McLaughlin?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it McLaughlin?
No, so,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
here's how I see this.
All right.
McLaughlin is the way that us McLaughlin say it,
I see.
but I'm pretty sure we say it wrong.
I've heard
Do you know
about
what I mean?
Right.
So it's right and wrong at the same
Right,
time.
and when you
I've
say
heard about
we,
you guys.
yeah.
and when you say we, you're inviting us to your family.
Yes, of
Oh my
course.
gosh.
Gee, this is-
That means so much. I'll pass. That's really
Well,
nice of you.
so pre-pandemic, we went to, I took all the McLaughlins. So my family, my brother, his wife and kids, and my parents to Scotland because I thought that we were Scottish. It turns out we're probably Irish. It took going to Scotland and my mother breaking her ankle at our ancestral castle.
Oh.
We're like, okay, how far? I've never been able to trace the name back.
Right.
But I just was like, oh, McLaughlin comes from McLaughlin, comes from Lachlan. And there was a Lachlan castle that was just ruins in Scotland. And I was like, let's just go, let's do the whole thing. Let's get the kilts and let's take pictures next to this thing. It's like, just why not? When are we all going to be together?
Right.
And like the guy sort of taking us around the castle was like, yeah, based on your spelling, it's probably the Irish side. There was a point at which that they split. And based on that, L-A-U-G-H,
Wow.
L-I-N.
That's
probably
interesting.
Irish.
There's got to be an easier way to do it.
Because then
Can we
also,
just, you know what I mean? Can we just agree to go call them Irishland? Problem solved.
Right.
also people's like names change when they immigrate a lot of
Yeah.
times too, and spellings switch around to make them more like American.
I found out
guess,
that-
easily palatable.
People can know this now. My middle name is Adika. My last name is Cope. I found out that Cope was changed to Cope from Cooper just by accident.
Right.
Like 2 generations ago, like quite
Wow,
recently.
they missed a P and a...
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like they ran out of ink at the typewriter or something.
Yeah, they may be a company. They were like, Jordan Co.
Oh.
That'd be pretty cool.
There is a very strange corner of YouTube that I got recommended recently that I thought was kind of rude and inappropriate.
Ugly
and
guy
it was
YouTube.
okay. So I recently was on. I was on Keith Eats the Menu with the Try Guys with Keith Habersberger, and the reason I say his last name is because I got recommended a video that was like, "Is Keith from the Try Guys one of the Habsburgs?" And it was like a photo of like the family that has this is mean. This is why it's like mean spirited. It's like there's like the Habsburg jaw where it's like, oh, there was so much incest within this family that they like look weird.
Right.
And then they were like, Keith looks
This
weird.
weird?
And I'm like, don't do that. and then the answer was no, by the way. Which is like,
Yeah, it turns out he's not.
yeah, so leave Keith out of this.
Just taking a thumbnail of a good-looking guy and being like, is he good-looking and it's all fucked up? Or-
And I wouldn't have mentioned this if I hadn't seen Keith talk about this on a podcast, like where he was like, I figure we must be related or something like that. But it was someone who went through his family tree, which I was like, I think that's a little invasive to go to someone else's.
I had someone do this.
No.
Thing.
And they could have told you about the Irish connection.
yeah, it didn't even help.
Yeah, I can't remember how I found out about this, but I had done the, I guess, Ancestry.com thing.
Yeah.
And done a little bit of like poking around and
Right.
realized that I got back to like early 1800s, rural Georgia. That was as far back, and it was like then the people didn't have any records.
Right.
Once it gets too Irish.
Yeah, exactly right. It was like, yes.
I don't know how to write this.
Yeah, it was funny because it was like on both sides.
Oh,
it kind of
really?
went
Okay.
back to like, so my parents were I'm probably very inbred, I guess is ultimately what I learned. But in the process, I don't remember, like some guy tweeted and he had, because you can, if you know someone's name and you know someone's like parents' name, you can kind of start piecing it together. And he had like done it and tweeted about it. It basically got as far back as I did, but I was like, Is this an invasion of privacy?
And it's a hobby that people have. Like we worked with somebody who I'm not going to put on blast, but she did it only for friends who asked for it. Who was really into genealogy.
The person that we're talking about was obsessed with getting me to do 23andMe or Ancestry.com.
Yeah, I had that happen to me too.
Did you cave? Did you do it?
No, I'm off the grid.
Yeah.
I did it for the reason that, one, morbid curiosity. Two, I'm like, whatever, a company can have my DNA. It's fine. I totally understand when a lot of people don't want to do that. And I knew, like, hypothetically that I had a white dad, but I was kind of wanted something akin to science to confirm.
Right.
Because I didn't grow up with my father knowing who that was. My birth mother doesn't know who it is.
You want a prescribed
Yeah,
father.
so I was like, oh, I'm curious. But then, I found out that I'm half British, and now I have more in common with this guy. And so,
See, yeah, it brings people together.
yeah.
In my wife's case, she did it, and she got her parents to do it. And she found out that a grandfather on her mom's side and grandfather on her dad's side, both sides were not her actual grandfathers.
Whoa.
What?
Doesn't Oprah do this too? Where she I feel like every now and again I see a headline that's like, this famous actress finds out that they're connected to
She does that as the reveal?
something horrible. Yeah.
That's her version of like Ellen jumping and giving
No, but
her
anyway,
something.
yeah, sorry, not to derail this.
But yeah, it'll
So-
be like, your great-great-grandfather was a Confederate general or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah, and it's like, what am I supposed to
and
do
it's like,
about
well, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's like I'm
He's
not
canceled.
responsible. Yeah.
Acknowledge it.
I condemn that.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
good
silly.
or bad?
It's so funny because I don't know about you, but yeah, I think because I don't have a lot of knowledge about my family history, I'm sure there's like value to having that and you can feel like you're a part of something. But since I don't, I kind of am just like, I guess it starts from here. History starts from right here,
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. If you know any people from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they're really into the genealogies because they believe that you can essentially save people after they're dead. So like you can like baptize dead people
I see.
to like get them into heaven. I don't know the details.
Save their
Right,
soul,
right.
not their life, because they died already.
And so
Yeah.
that's why like one of the I don't know if like the Mormon church is like behind ancestry.com but I wouldn't be surprised if they are, but I do know that like the best like records that go as far back as possible for like just like a population in the United States
Right.
is Mormon people.
Fascinating.
Because of like that practice
wow.
of like, well, you got to figure out who your people are so you can pray for them.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
that would still feel slightly invasive. Like if I was in purgatory, and
It's like, what if I don't want it?
Right.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Hey, you're blowing up my spot.
Wait, who had my SSN?
Yeah.
Oh, send me back.
Yeah, your identity gets stolen after you. Yeah, wow.
Is that accurate? In my brain, I was thinking of purgatory as literally phically in between heaven and hell. like a stalled elevator.
Yeah, it's like
Right,
a floor that you've got to go between.
Like a doctor's office, and they make you refill the form you have to fill every time you go there. You're like, where? You don't write this on a computer or something?
You, Rhett, you're a Southern gentleman, right? You grew up in the South?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in my head. I'm thinking North Carolina, but you mentioned
Well, you're
Georgia.
right.
Okay,
Born in Georgia.
okay,
That's where like my family is from.
gotcha.
But don't remember that much.
Gotcha.
I was actually out here in Thousand Oaks, California,
Wow.
from like 3 to 5 or 6.
Okay.
And then moved to North Carolina, 1984. That's where I met Link. That's where the story.
Right,
That's a lot of
Boyz
hopping
Creek.
around.
Yeah. My dad was trying to figure out what he was going to do with his life. He had been an attorney, and then he was like, I want to teach law.
Oh,
And his first job was at Pepperdine
oh,
in Malibu. So like going from small town, South Georgia to
that's a culture shock in my head.
yeah.
I don't know
and
what-
it was, and that's why they moved to North Carolina.
Okay,
Because my
yeah.
mom was like, I don't care about your sunshine and your sunglasses.
Is your mum from North Carolina?
She's from Georgia.
Oh,
And so then he was like, I got to get a teaching job somewhere else. And so
Right.
there was a little law school at a little college in Boyz Creek, North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
And that's where he was there like from 84 until he like retired 2 years ago.
Wow.
Imagine you didn't move there and the show would be so weird. It would be Link sat for half of the frame by himself.
Everything would be the same except for you just wouldn't be there.
Just the notorious Rhett stick.
The Rhett stick would definitely.
And it would still be called the Rhett stick, but we wouldn't know why.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know. It just felt right.
Is this stick Irish?
I feel like that's a good lesson though, because especially if your dad was trying to figure out, we're all in that situation where it's like, what am I going to do to move across the country twice, but then eventually land in a place that you retire in? It's so seemingly like something was working about that.
Yeah. Well, and it is the kind of thing that you start thinking about once you get to the life stage. You realize when I'm past the life stage that my dad was at when he made those decisions, but it's like, well, that was kind of like in 1980 to be this guy that had basically been in Georgia his whole life and then to be like, yeah, I'm going to work in Malibu, California. Like that's a big.
I mean, kudos for giving it a shot.
And what's even what are you being exposed to that even informs you on like when I moved to the US, I at least had decades of media, movies, TV, everything kind of saying, hey, this is what San Francisco's like.
Yeah, how do you find out about
there.
Malibu in the 80s?
What do you think it is?
Well, I was trying to explain this to Shepard, my 15-year-old, because we went to, they did one of those. It was the official premiere, I guess, of the Hunger Games, but it was also kind of like, it was at the Chinese theater, so there was like a lot of fans, like a big premiere, but like a cast was there and everybody's dressed up, red carpet, whole thing. And we were driving back home and I was like, what do you think about that whole thing that we just did? He was like, I don't know. It all seems pretty vain.
Jesus.
Based.
So you gotta, when a kid's too profound, that's unsettling.
Yeah. And I was like, well, it is. And then I was kind of trying to explain to him, I was like, well, see, there's like three perspectives. I'll get back to how this relates to the perception of Malibu. But I was like, there's people who are usually in like three different states, right? When they're in that situation. There's the people who are completely like held captive to the game that everyone's playing, and they don't know that it's a game. But they're like really trying hard to look the right way, be the right, talk to the right people, whatever, be seen. And this is probably like 75% of the people there.
Sure. It's the only dialect they know.
Right. And then you've got the people who see it for what it is and sort of the vanity, and they can't be a part of it and they hate being there. And then I was like, Shepard, your dad, me, I am in the third category. Thanks to 23andMe, I know I'm your dad. Where you're completely right. I recognize the vanity in this whole thing, but something about like feeling like you kind of understand the how much of a game it is. You can actually be like, this is ridiculous, but I can kind of still enjoy it.
Sure. Right. I think that's fair.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like seeing like Peter Dinklage get up in front of and like talk about the movie before. You're like, this is Peter Dinklage. I'm in the room with Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, that's fun.
And Viola Davis.
Right. You got to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's as arbitrary as enjoying anything. Like if I watch Game of Thrones and I see Peter Dinklage and I go like, but this didn't happen.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Why am I enjoying this? It's just, suspend the disbelief a little bit and just enjoy the fact that there's a big screen playing something.
Yeah. When I told him, I was like, you grew up in LA because we moved here when he was 2. And I was like, none of this feels, he's been to premieres, none of it feels, I was like, do you understand if when I was 15, you took me from North Carolina and you put me in this place? I remember I had a cousin who I had never met. It was a second cousin. And we found out when I was like 10 years old that he was in an Oscar Mayer Wiener commercial. And he was like this little boy on this lawn and there was a dog and he drops like the hot dog and the dog eats it or something. And
quite the commercial.
Yeah, it was great. I'm a fan.
Oscar Mayer Wiener.
100 million wieners sold.
A dog will
Even
eat
your
it.
dog likes them.
Yeah, it wasn't a great concept. But I remember thinking, he's on that screen.
Right.
My cousin that I've never met, still haven't met, was on that screen. And I was like, Shepard, everybody closely has been on that screen, including you when you've like made appearances and stuff. So it doesn't mean anything. And it's also way easy to be on that screen now. Like anybody could, you probably go to high school with 10 people who like went viral for some reason at some point. Yeah. I was like, but you gotta understand, we thought differently about it. So this is all like going to a movie and like seeing the people in the movie talk about the movie before the movie. It like appeals to this kid from the 80s.
Well, I think we relate to that a lot because we've been talking about this lately because we both got into this biz later than, and I don't know when you guys started YouTube, like how old you were.
So it was 06. So we were already like 29. Like I was almost 30.
So,
yeah.
well, no. So this is similar because I started YouTube when I was 26. And like, I think that I was like more fully formed than the average like person nowadays who starts on YouTube. So there's still like the versions of us that were just fans of things that now we get to take part in.
Yeah.
And there's like a little bit of like a passenger thing where it's like, you look at yourself from like a third person view and go, huh.
And it's so easy to, unless you're very, very, very conscientious about it, it's very easy to shift your standard on what is exciting and just say like, oh, well, this movie, not that many people care about this movie premiere, so I guess it's not actually good.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I mean, we're actually, I don't think it'll come out yet, but we're shooting something this Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
I should know. I should check. We're shooting something this Friday that is from a media organization that's like foundational for us. Like,
Right. That we like have followed for a long time. Have followed people who are involved with it.
the 50% of my humor and interest is formed by this thing.
Yep.
And when the email was circulating and it's like, oh, let's set that up, let's figure it out. There was a distance to it, like getting a email offering an ad deal. And it was like, oh, it's just kind of this abstract admin thing. And then I saw it on the calendar and I went like, no, but I'll be there with my body and head.
Yeah.
That's crazy that I'll be near the thing and people.
Right.
That meant something. And if I could mention when I was, I don't know, like 16, 17, and when I was like 21, I always thought to myself, wow, if I told that teenager that I'm in the office, if I'm in the mythical office right now,
Right.
yeah, that would be crazy. And this is just like, I'm just having a meeting with
I
Brian.
mean, when me and the first time I had an experience like that, it was so I used to do improv in San Francisco, and that's how Anastasia and my producer, met. And we used to be on an improv team together, and we performed every week or a couple times a week. And we performed at SF Sketchfest, and we like had passes to go to like the performer parties at Sketchfest. And there are lots of like, you know, hometown talent at those parties, but then there's also people who come in from out of town, like big comedians and stuff. You know, it's like I saw like Gabrus at one of them, or like people who's like, I listen to that person's podcast.
Yeah.
I've been watching that person on, you know, this thing forever. And the whole like play it cool, you know, I act like you've been here before thing.
Hi.
It's so, it
Hello,
feels, it's like a
sir.
very out of body experience, and it's cool. You're allowed to, you can be as sort of
okay
aware
to enjoy it
and cynical or you know, keep it at a distance or whatever, but it's also you're allowed to allow yourself to enjoy things. And that is something I have to tell myself a lot, because I am the type of person to, if I achieve anything in my life, I go, well, it's not really worth celebrating. I'm bad at celebrating
I
myself.
do the same thing.
Yeah.
I minimize it. And that same thing applies to like those images of California, which defined every neighborhood and every movie, every TV show that we watched growing up. And then I just remember driving around Burbank, like on one of those just like neighborhood streets, and it like clicked. I was like, oh, this is every neighborhood from every show I ever watched.
Yeah.
And it looks the plants are so specific, and there's like a random palm tree, and
Right.
And there's still moments where that third person thing happens, where even if I wake up and just look out the window and it just is it looks very different than North Carolina.
Right.
I'm kind of like, I'm in California. Like it's a weird feeling. Like I'll always feel like I'm just a North Carolina guy. That's home. And you're like, I'm in the place where the entertainment comes from.
I am such a little weirdo anytime I see a red fire hydrant or like a yellow school bus. I'm like, for the movie.
Yeah.
From the movie. Is that from the movie?
Jordan,
Am I on set?
You said this before, but like you as a younger person, like not idolized, but mythologized America
Oh, yeah,
before you
very
like
much so.
came before you came here.
I
Yeah.
think there's still at least like an aesthetic magic to seeing, like there's just certain like iconic images, vistas. The Hollywood sign still has like a little bit of magic. Hollywood sucks.
Yeah.
But just seeing in isolation, seeing a Hollywood star, Walk of Fame star, you still go, oh, it's the.
It still has a little something.
It feels like you're looking behind the scenes at like so many like as people who've consumed so much media that it like defines a big aspect of your personality. It feels like you're looking behind the scenes at a part of your own life where you're like, oh, this is the things that matter to me media wise. I can like peel back the curtain and kind of see the streets that they were walking on, or like the skies that they were seeing, and it's very weird.
I don't know what like media is set where either of you are from or are familiar with, but like, do you ever watch something that's supposed to at least lightly represent where you're from or have lived a long time, and you can see the little nuances, the tiny little chips in the armor because you know it better than the movie does?
Yeah. I mean, as somebody from the South, the number of shows or movies that get like North Carolina right.
Right. It's not shot in Vancouver or something. You're like trying to make it seem.
And I mean,
way,
the easiest thing is the accent, right? And I mean, speaking of the Hunger Games, like the lead actor in that, she is, it's like she's from District 12, I guess, which is the like kind of like supposed to be like the South or West Virginia or something.
Oh yeah.
I've only seen the first one and this one, but it was a prequel, so it was okay. So it was okay to have missed everything in between.
Yeah.
But like we were watching it and Link leans over and he's like, I think that this actor has the same, she must have had the same dialect coach as what's her name from The Walking Dead, who was a British actor who played like, had a Georgia accent.
Right.
I apologize.
Because she sounded, but seriously, I mean, obviously the thing is that I can't tell you the number of times that I felt completely betrayed by finding out that someone who's actually doing an incredible accent is almost always British.
Yeah.
A great Southern accent in particular. But I find that people from other places in the U.S., you can kind of just tell that, I'm just never really believing. Like I couldn't believe, she was a great actor.
Yeah.
But it was like, it looks like someone putting on an accent every single scene. That's the thing that I end up
finding out that
focusing on.
House is British breaks my brain. I don't know how, and you like House.
I adore House. I adore Hugh Laurie. He's kind of, I think, so early. Blackadder was a show that I grew up watching.
Yeah.
And he's so fucking fantastic in that show.
And he had Fry and Laurie, right?
Seeing him on House the first time, I was like, "What? Hey, we can do it! Hey, we made it! That's pretty cool." But then, people don't know who he is. People are surprised with Benedict Cumberbatch sometimes, which surprises me because he looks medically British.
And that name, I mean, it's like
it sounds like a Chat GPT generated name for a British person.
It's one of those meta AI where it's Mr. Beast face, but they have to call him Tyler or something.
So, literally. About that thing where like, do they get the South right thing? I have not relating to the South, but a little bit. There's a movie. So this is going to connect two things, because on the point of like seeing places on the screen and then going there in real life, the first time I had this was, I grew up in Florida in a college town, like fairly sheltered about the world. But then slowly, as I like made more friends who were like, for example, I don't know if I was going to say famously, I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before. I think I have. I found out about Georgia Tech, which is like, so I went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta from Florida, and that was the first time I left the state. And the reason I applied to Georgia Tech was because my friend Russell visited there and said you would like it, and I was like, good enough for me.
That's all it took sometimes.
Yeah. Because I didn't have the ability to go, around to visit colleges and stuff.
The same process as like a medieval fiefdom.
Yeah.
Like, have you heard of Londinium?
My whole life,
like it.
My whole life I was
population of 300.
My whole life I was like, I'll just go to the University of Florida, which was in my hometown, and if that had happened, I never would have left.
Right.
And then I get to Tech. And then there's another sort of layer of like unraveling the world where we have our first career fair, and Microsoft is there, and Google is there, and Facebook is there. And this was like back when Facebook was cool, so it was a long time ago. And
It was 2008.
It was like during imagine the social network. And I was like, those are places on the internet.
You can have a job there.
Right. Or
Is it in person or the internet? You just decide.
And then the next layer was like, I interned at Google as like a software engineer my sophomore year of college. And I like went to the like campus and I was like, this is, and then it was at the time where, I think it's very good that tech has been knocked down a peg, but PR for tech at the time was at unprecedented levels of they've got ball pits, they've got sleeping pods, they've got free meals. You know, and that was like how
these jobs are so whimsical.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It was like, oh my god, I would love to play Nerf bet wars with my coworkers, and. So then
you don't need health insurance. We're having fun.
So I went to Georgia Tech for college, and then I interned at Google my sophomore year of college, and also my sophomore year of college, they, while I was out interning, they were filming the movie. No one's gonna know this movie. Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, The Internship.
Oh yeah.
So this movie is about Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson getting an internship at Google. Very specific to my life experience. And where was that movie shot? It was partly shot on the Google campus in Mountain View, California. And the other place it was shot was the campus of Georgia Tech, my alma mater. So we all got together and watched that movie when it came out. And it was the strangest. There was no way for me to like suspend disbelief in that movie because I'm constantly watching them open doors in California and then walk into rooms in Georgia.
You're like, no,
and I'm like that cab is an Atlanta cab. That's a Prius that's in Mountain View.
You're in a very small target audience that is like the anti-target audience. For
right.
That
They're
movie.
like, what if someone knows these places? They're like, well, that person, we don't care about.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because that becoming familiar with LA, then you start seeing how
Yeah.
often it's just like, oh, this person walks across the street and they're an hour drive away. Like that happens all the time now.
And in Atlanta, there's a little bit of it because it's got so much stuff is shot there, and especially like, you know, Avengers shot a bunch of stuff in Atlanta. A lot of the Marvel movies, especially back in the early days. So
Georgia has like big tax cuts on production.
yeah, like Walking Dead, I think was shot there. But there's a I think it's a scene in I think it's a scene in Avengers. One of those movies. They're eating brunch at just random cafe, but it was Silver Skillet, this incredible like soul food brunch spot where it's like all, I feel like grandmas work there and they all cook. They're like, we are the Avengers of grandmas and we're going to cook the like most delicious food you've ever had. And me and my like friends would go there a lot on the weekends. And I was like, that's Silver Skillet. And that was like, I hadn't even been to California, I think at that point, but I was just like, that's from my life.
Yeah.
You know?
There's where people are going to that place elsewhere and going like, that's the scene from Iron Man 2 where he discovers that he has poisoning from the intestine in his chest, and Nick Fury and Black Widow are there.
Oh yeah,
in the first appearance of Black Widow.
Exactly
that.
Exactly that. They do say that. Also, the Joker stairs. Like there's that meme from the Joaquin Phoenix Joker where he like does the dance on the stairs.
Right. Yes.
And then everybody started going to the
Must
stairs.
be a nightmare to go down.
Oh yeah, ruined it.
Or it's like Abbey Road, trying to go up those stairs.
Oh yeah, they shot part of Dark Knight at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. I don't know why.
The scene where he gets his GED.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that's where Russell, my friend who told me I should go to Georgia Tech, went to school. And so
you should go to Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Well, I actually applied. We both applied to Carnegie Mellon. I didn't get in. It was a blessing in disguise, but definitely I still feel it to this day, a little chip on my shoulder. Yeah,
but I mean, the Carnegie Mellon basketball team. You're not going to that game.
No.
Right?
D3, I think it is. But then Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, I could go to lots of D1 basketball and football games. Let me tell you.
And what's fun is that I can just with impunity say, no, the NFL wanted me actually, but I'm British. I couldn't go.
Right, you weren't allowed.
There was just no way for me to do it. It's my keys.
That's funny because there literally are stories of NBA players who it's like this person was playing basketball in Africa with like a wicker basket and a scout saw it and was like, I will get you a scholarship to a school in America and we will train you to become the best basketball player the world has ever seen.
Oh, they must have missed me.
Yeah.
Or it's because I'm not athletic and I'm bad at basketball.
It's definitely the former.
Did you play basketball for obvious reasons?
I did. I thought that was going to be like in high school, I was like, this is my future, college basketball.
Oh, well, cool.
And then junior year in high school, Link and I started a band. That was our sort of first like formalized entertainment venture.
Right. Yeah.
Was our Christian genre-less band that might sing a country song, might sing a punk song. Like literally.
You can't define us.
You didn't know. As long as somehow it got back to Jesus.
It's like Creed.
Yeah.
All paths lead to Jesus.
But when we started that band and we were kind of like, we're going to be rock stars. That's what we're going to be. So I'm definitely not going to college to play basketball. Like a D2, D3 school.
Yeah.
I'm getting a Christian rock scholarship.
Well, you know what? You can probably do that. There's a school in what is it? There's a school in Nashville, which makes sense. I think it's called Belmont.
Okay.
Which is
isn't
like,
that where Nick went?
Maybe.
It's very much like the Christian music school. So like if you're, I mean, I don't know how much that's the path there anymore, but like 15, 20 years ago, it was like, you want to be in Christian music? Go to Belmont, because you'll either be a musician or you'll be like an executive.
Right. Jacob, Google Nick is not green college.
Google address.
Yeah. I
Nick's
would
not chain
text
blood
him.
type.
Yeah, Belmont University, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, see, there you
I
go.
knew it.
Is he a Christian rock musician?
I mean, he is a touring musician right now.
I think he's talked in the past. He has like a Christian background.
He does.
Yeah.
I think he actually he's spoken publicly, I think, as well about how, you know, you and Link's experience with religion has like been really helpful for him navigating his own faith. So that's, you know,
That must be feedback.
Or detrimental, depending on your worldview.
depending on who you are.
in the eyes of the church.
yeah.
You must get that feedback a lot, right?
That it's been good or bad. Yes,
I
I
get
get
like
both.
a lot of fans reaching out and saying, "Hey, this
Yeah.
gave me the validation." I
Yeah,
needed."
it's because it's so personal for people. I think there's a lot of people who would never in a million years like comment on something or DM you just to say like, I loved it when, you know, Link dressed up like a fountain and peed chocolate into your mouth.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
He might be the kind of thing.
we got to get this guy out the show. Okay, yeah.
delete it.
But if they're like, oh, I felt like you articulated something that I was feeling, or like I have a similar background, or I'm struggling with something like that. Like, yeah, people tend to have given, and that was like not an expected. That's been like one of the good things about having like opened up about it.
Right.
The negative part is just like, you know, you've kind of like, there's this little flag that you're waving, which is that you have something somewhat critical to say about the most, you know, prominent religion in the United States of America.
Also, there's nothing that it would take so many words, I'm sure, to define truly what is in your head. And whenever you're saying it out loud, you're approximating this much more complex idea of what you're trying to say. But then when you say something, someone can poke holes in your logic.
Oh yeah. And that's been like, there's been a lot of growth. It's because we like first kind of told our story in 2020. There's been a lot of growth in like, I think immediately, like once a lot of the attacks started happening, like there's encouraging stuff, but there was attacks. You've immediately want to defend yourself and be like, no, let me explain what I meant. Right. This is not like what I meant.
Which is giving them more credit than they deserve, because it's not pardon the pun, good faith argument that they're making.
Right. Yeah. And so what I've tried to do is like, anytime I talk about it publicly, who I have in mind is me from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody who is like genuinely like a fervent believer in, you know, traditional Christian religion, but also like open to like, what if I'm wrong, I kind of want to be shown that I'm wrong.
Right.
Or if there's something that can be challenged. I'm not trying to talk people out of anything, but just like, you know, just consider it honestly or whatever. So I try to be like, yeah, I'm not going to like get into the just a very unproductive dialogue that tends to happen on the internet.
Or people misunderstanding and thinking it is a dialogue.
Right. Yeah.
No, this wasn't a conversation.
A sharing of experience is not always up for debate.
Yeah, right.
There's a couple of different directions I wanted to go, because one is I just wanted to make a point way back when you were talking about your son. Was it Shepherd?
Shepherd, yeah.
Yeah. calling out a premiere event for being vain. That's, I think, a good thing that you can have some cynicism around that.
It is, I'm sure, a relief as far as like,
especially
I hope my
growing
kid's
up
not too much
in that
LA.
environment.
Yeah. Well, and also too, because even in, when he was born, I was still in this place where I was like, I need to pass my faith onto this kid, both of my kids, and Shepard being so young. We ended up basically deconstructing both me and my wife before he could really remember. And so he wasn't raised in a Christian household.
Right.
But because of my background, I'm still programmed to believe that recognizing the vanity of a Hollywood event is a Christian value.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't think about that either.
But in interest, it is, but also it's just sort of like a human value to recognize the emptiness of superficial pursuits, right?
It's correlation, not causation.
Yeah.
Anyone
and it's
that's
just
not Christian is like,
he
cool.
hasn't been like going to church or Christian camps or anything like that. He's just been in a family that loves him.
Yeah.
And he like picked up on this stuff on his own. So
No,
it was
cool.
a good moment
I
for
was
me.
like, that's cool. Like, because I think also because there's such a narrative always about, kids who come from, privileged backgrounds being like out of touch or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like that actually falls so much on the parenting. And so it's really just a compliment to,
I'm taking all the credit.
Oh, okay. I was gonna offer it to the two partners that are involved in raising
it's mostly my
child
wife.
rearing, but
we're actually fine with it being both of you.
Or just luck.
Were we
or
involved? Did we contribute at all, do you think?
in spirit, I think.
Somehow retroactively.
Yeah, retroactively.
I'll tell him about it.
We time traveled.
I've been talking to him about the Hunger Games.
The other thing was connecting, music, Christianity, performance to not only Rhett and Link the entity, but now James and the Shame.
Yeah.
Is this like this is like your it is a solo venture, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely outside of mythical.
Yeah.
I kind of call it nights and weekends. There are times when I'm like working on it, and then there are times when I'm not thinking about it at all. But it's very much I would say that like it's my hobby.
Sure.
That just happens to also be an entertainment outlet.
But is there a part? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, does it feel different now that you are publishing things and it is, not exclusively a hobby? It's not part of mythical, but it is part of
the moments where I feel like I'm getting pulled into having to do the things that an independent musician would need to do in order to get people to care about their music is the moment where it gets to be not very fun for me. Because I'm like, my whole life is trying to get people to care about the things that I'm saying on the internet in all these different places, right?
Yeah, and there is overlap in terms of the ways that you have to do those types of things. Yeah.
And so because the music is supposed to be like idealistically, it would be 100% like a personal, like an expression. People might be like, why don't you just write the songs and just record them and never put them out? Or why do you just write the songs? It's like, well, the process of writing the songs was therapeutic. The process of recording the songs is like a fun, legitimate thing as a musician. And the process of releasing it into the world is kind of this like, whoever will connect with this, let them connect with it.
Yeah.
But then the next step, which is like, I have to make this work financially.
Sure.
I have to devote a lot of time to this. Like, that's not the goal. It's not supposed to supplant anything that I'm doing with mythical. In fact, it's supposed to like kind of stay to the side because, as you might guess, like I'm pretty busy with mythical stuff.
But also you're allowed to have hobbies that don't, turn a profit. I think that this is like a culture that we exist in now where like it feels anything you're doing has to have like an end goal.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a false, like, I feel like it can be it's easy to fall into that trap when it's something that other people are doing for a job. No one's like, you need to turn this crochet thing into a big business.
Right.
But, or you need to turn reading these romance novels or whatever on the weekends into a business. But when someone has a career doing that thing and you see someone doing it, they connect those dots, and it doesn't always have to be that. It could just be to like, for your own expression.
Well, and I think there's also people who are like, and people will actually articulate this, like, this feels like it's a threat to the thing that I really enjoy from you, which is the stuff you do with Link, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so it's like, I have trouble. One good thing about it is when you do like country, you're kind of, the funnel is a little bit narrower. When you do country that's about deconstructing from Christianity, it's so niche that there's not a lot of risk of it taking off. You know what I'm saying? There's
none of the tissue that was in mythical is being like extracted and put there instead.
Right. But there are people who are kind of like, they see it that way. They're like, well, you're an entertainer, so you're doing this thing that is entertaining. Right. So this must be so you can stop doing this other stuff.
Like a zero-sum game of creativity.
It's so parasocial too, because it's so funny to be like, well, how does this impact the thing I watch when I'm enjoying my midday snack? You know what I mean? Like, but I put you on when I'm eating. No, does this fuck that up? You know what I mean?
Well, and even, if you write a song that's a little less explicit in its subject matter, like, and I don't mean, cursing or whatever. I mean, like,
it's not like a straightforward
obvious
or whatever. Obvious, yeah.
So there's a song on the EP that just came out that I invited Link to sing. And I knew that getting Link to sing with me was going to make all the mythical people excited. And that wasn't why I did it. I did it because I was singing about this situation that he and I had both been involved in.
Yeah.
That I will never like talk about publicly because it's just like a private thing between us and friends and stuff. And but the course of the song is, I think I'm supposed to like this, but I'm pretty sure I just found out that I don't, or whatever. And so the number of people who are like, he's talking about GMM. He's talking about GMM because he said it was something he and Link are involved in, and he's basically in a song admitting that he just doesn't like GMM. He doesn't like doing GMM. And I'm just like, it's okay. It is okay to think this.
Sure.
But you're going to like publish your opinion in a comment, right? Like this is your theory. It's like,
you separate the art from the artist, you can't then bring it back to the artist. Also, because they have a dialogue by themselves. They come back and they're like, this is about Trump, right? Wait, what happened?
I think it's so funny too, because like it ignores the fact that you and Link have a relationship outside of mythical. You know what I mean? Like that you could have shared experiences that everyone else wasn't in on. Yeah. Because they're only working with the experiences that they know about, which is not your entire life experience, It's
100% of their experience of you.
Right.
But not 100% of like, I mean, if you didn't say publicly that you had kids, I don't think they would just intuit. Well, I guess did he read bedtime stories?
How do the kids impact the GMM schedule?
Exactly.
Do they work on the show?
Well, and the tricky thing is like, just a second ago, you were saying, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, which is like, that is... I don't know if I've said this on the internet, and I don't know which property I said it, right? Like that happens all the time. But there's also this thing of that perception that the people watching you on the internet, like they don't know you, they know the curated you. Sure. That they, based on a lot of their experience and the things that connect and the way they interpret everything that you do. But the thing that I'm sure you guys also struggle with is like, one of the keys to happiness I'm learning is sort of finding a way to detach from those labels and that idea, the projection of yourself that people have of you, which is just something, if you're not in entertainment, you already have to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like whatever personality you've constructed to be this thing that is presented to people. But when your identity, for the vast majority of people who know me, or know of me, know the projected me versus the very small amount of people who know me personally.
Right.
And it's just like, how do you stop from over-identifying from that? I think that's a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't ever make that detachment. And that's why when it falls apart, when you become irrelevant or whatever happens, which happens to anyone who is relevant at one point will become irrelevant at another point, then this part of you dies. You know what I mean?
And you've
Sure,
got to,
like-
go through that, grapple with that.
I mean, we mentioned earlier that we all know some people that got very successful very young in a public forum. And I've had a conversation with a few of my friends that are, a handful of years younger than me and got famous on the internet like 20 years old.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I've seen them really agonize over something that, without being patronizing, seems pretty minor. Seems more like just like a logistical error or a comment they didn't like or something like that. And I think a part of your brain can break when your entire relationship with your own personality is what you publish of it.
Yes.
Whatever is known about me, I'm defined only by public events or public things that happen. It's like, do I even enjoy skateboarding if it isn't recorded? Do I even like cooking if I didn't share it with my Patreon?
Or the one time you like said that you like beans a lot, and then it just became, and I do like beans.
Nothing wrong with beans.
I eat beans quite a bit.
I've heard this claim. Yeah.
But I don't love beans as much as the image of me loving beans seems to portray.
It's
Does
like
that
when
make
your
sense?
family.
He's talking about Link.
It's beans is
My
I get
nickname
it.
for Link is beans. You got it.
It's I feel like the more relatable version of this is like when your family doesn't know what to get you for like a holiday, and then they're like, he likes Garfield, right? And then they get you like Garfield comics, Garfield socks. You're like, it looks like I like Garfield way more than I actually do.
And then you're like, you're trying to be nice, and you say,
Oh,
"This
thank
is
you
great.
so much.
This is great.
awesome.
This is great."
Like, I did a great job. I got it. I knew Garfield, and I went with
And
it.
it can get, for years that'll happen.
Right, and it
I thought you
becomes-
love Garfield.
So
You never-
15 years of just, I'm a big Jim Davis guy still, I guess.
Never
Haven't read it in a while.
reveal it, and then you're like you're 40 and you're talking to your mom and you're like, I never did really like Garfield, and it's like, what
The hell?
that was actually a projection. It kind of became bigger than me. And I just had to run with it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, interpersonally, I mean, I'm sure this is your case as well, because I don't know if there's a lot of people where you are from that you stay in touch with or not, outside of family. Is that something you maintain?
A fair amount, yeah. And those relationships are really important, right? Like, so Link and I have recently kind of reconnected. Like, since COVID, we started connecting with like guys that we were close with in college that we kept up with them, like major life events,
For
that kind of
sure,
thing.
yeah.
But then we were like, let's get on a Zoom call every week
That's
during COVID.
awesome.
Now we don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
that turned into is like an annual, very typical, like, these 5 guys get together and go whitewater rafting or something like that.
Right.
And those people who were friends with you and lived with you, like everybody in this group except for one guy, like we lived together.
Right.
I think having those relationships that are just based on not like the ones that happen before your life stage now. I mean, I'm thankful that, I couldn't imagine, and this is probably the case for most people, is because I just been married for so long. We got I fell in love with my wife and got married before any of this stuff happened.
Right.
I could imagine navigating new relationships in this setting, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole thing.
And
But-
only as the version you are now. Like, none of the archive experience. I'm sure, like, it's almost like knowing an acronym where you just say it, and because the other person was with you 10 years ago, they're like, oh, of course, yes. I remember that trip.
Yeah,
the
right.
Trip, the Tennessee trip, of course. We were on the same page. I met my current partner a year ago, the very first time we met. Started dating 9 months, and then 10. I obviously remember.
You're just trying to throw everyone else off.
Well, who cares? And name. I just remembered it. Yes, yeah, definitely.
I texted it to you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's about something else. Oh, cat. It's like, but there are now and then I will realize I'll reference something that is from more than 10 months ago. Yeah. And I'll go like, oh, in fact, I mentioned obviously in the past that I had worked in tech, because when we first began to know each other, like, how long have you been in LA, etc. And I'd mentioned, well, I worked in tech after college, and then college I was still back in the UK. And a few months later, she mentioned that her dad was saying, hey, maybe you should get into engineering or coding, because she's sharp, she's good with numbers, this could be interesting. And she was like, what do you think of that? Is that like, oh, I can't code. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. My job was Riz. I did meetings and like managed things. Can't type a line. I truly can't. And she went like, oh, but you said tech. I'm like, right.
Yeah, got to catch you up a little bit.
That was insular. If you say, it's like if you say the industry here,
right?
You know, it's not mining, right? You know, they're talking about Hollywood, talking about production, and I realized if you had known me a year ago, more than a year, maybe you knew San Francisco a little better, then that would all be there. It was just back in the UK, and my best friend, when I was a kid, I mentioned it to, and he was like, he knows what tech is because we've been mentioning it for a decade.
Right.
He doesn't work in tech, never has, but he knows what I'm talking about. And you can, with a relationship, it's like, oh wow, what an intimate connection we have, and you know less about me than like my barista.
Right. Yeah. I can code, by the way. For anybody who's curious, that was my job.
Yeah, me as well, actually. I can do that shit because it's
that
easy.
was my gig.
I took a semester of C++.
Oh, yeah.
You realized it's for babies, you know.
Yeah.
C++, I tried to learn when I was 16. Me and my friend Russell, shout out. He's getting a lot of shout outs today. We tried to learn it together, and it is now in retrospect, I can say this, terrible first programming language to learn.
Yeah.
Terrible first programming language to teach. I know there's a lot of people, this is a very specific shout out. There's a lot of people out there who have to take Java as their first programming language. There's so much freaking shit you gotta type that you don't know what it means. Public static void main.
Of course.
Open parentheses string array.
Is this the main reason?
Any of that mean?
I think this is why neither
You don't
of us
know that when
got
you first
into
start.
it. We probably identified this as dumb. This is for
very
losers.
stupid,
We're
it's for
cool.
losers.
Yeah. As I was being introduced to coding, I was like, this is not the type of engineering that I want to do.
And you did civil.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's okay. Cool.
Yeah, I nothing against civil engineering and nothing against water resources concentration of civil engineering.
Well,
but
we've already had them at our back. Please be careful with them. They're pretty intense.
I think it's the easiest. I think I found the path of least resistance. And I thought I wanted to be an architect, and then somebody was like, design school is really like, this kids are never having fun. They're just constantly doing projects.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll do the engineering side of architecture. I'll do structural engineering. Took one class in structural engineering. I was like, this seems really boring. Like what's happening inside a beam that's not moving.
Right.
Like I can imagine.
And if it's boring for you, that's the stuff that makes buildings not collapse.
Yeah.
You want the person who gets into that to care about that beam.
Yeah. And so then I'm
you
like,
don't want your surgeon to get bored because your heart's in the same place as always.
Yeah, I was like aortas, whatever, dude.
Whatever.
Yeah, just cut it open.
Why is everyone doing this?
and eventually worked my way to like just designing dams and drainage systems, which is also boring, just so you understand, but very necessary. I'm glad there are people who are really into
boring.
it.
I think it's it being boring when it's successful because nothing happens. That's the good thing.
Yeah,
it's exciting when it goes really wrong.
Yeah, you don't. It's like an American football reference. The long snapper, the guy who just hikes the ball, like you're not supposed to hear his name during the game. You know what I'm saying? If you hear his name, he made a mistake.
Yeah.
I was like, good plastic surgery.
Yeah. You don't want to know the engineer of the bridge.
That was my man Dagan in high school. Shout out Dagan.
Oh, we can agree with that.
Yeah,
Shout out
Dagan.
Dagan. Shout out to the civil engineering water squad.
Well, the crazy thing is that this past June, Link and I gave the commencement addresses at our respective engineering. So I did the civil engineering, like the construction and civil engineering commencement, which I think they may have not even had commencement. Like it's not like the main school thing.
Right.
I don't think they usually have like somebody from the outside get up and speak. I think that was a new thing.
Cool. How long was that 100% of your focus as your career before?
I think it may have been, it was less than 2 years. Because we had a very ridiculous path to full-time entertainment, which also involved going and working. This is the part of the story that was always glossed over in every interview before 2020 because we didn't want to have to talk about, we get into somewhat confusing details of like being involved in like a Christian campus ministry for a while, and that was our start in comedy.
That conversation came way later, like you were saying, right?
Yeah, because I guess it was 2003. Graduated 2003. We started. So maybe like 2.5 years I was an engineer.
Yeah.
Before we did our, campus
Before you
ministry
were like,
thing.
how about I engineer how many shirts I can fit on this guy?
Exactly. Yeah.
I can do this with a beam.
We have a live show coming up. If you're watching this sometime before December 3rd at 4 p.m., then and you're in Los Angeles, you should head on over to the Hayworth Theater, Dynasty Typewriter. Come see us live with some friends. We have not announced who, but I think you'll know who they are. And also, we've got merch. Jarvis.store, new merch drop. Beautiful, beautiful articles of clothing. We wore them last week. Also for Black Friday, this purple shirt will be restocked. And that's all.
I wore that exact purple shirt on Good Mythical Morning. I got
love this
lots
shirt.
of compliments.
I'm thank you.
Official endorsement.
Thank you for making great apparel.
I'm so proud of the stuff because it's stuff that I just wear all the time. But then I worry that it's weird for me to wear my own merch.
That was a conversation that we had for about a year. And then it was funny. I would see other creators who wore their own merch and I would judge them harshly.
Right.
And then I've moved so far beyond that.
I mean, I sometimes feel weird because most of the merch I have is from friends and it's all of the most comfortable stuff I own. Mm-hmm. So I find myself I've worn Jakey's hoodie at my worst.
Yeah.
Just at my I'm so tired, I'm so jet lagged, and I'm just snuggled up
you're
in
being
my
held
friend.
in the warm embrace of naked Jakey.
Yeah, I am Jakey's album right now, laying down on the ground.
We were gonna work up to this, but I think there's been a very interesting development on YouTube, and I asked before the show if you had heard of this thing, and just you've been on YouTube pretty much since the beginning of the platform. Yep. And what if I told you that there is a new king in town? We're talking 3 billion views a month.
No.
Yeah. 35 million subscribers.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This guy.
Yeah. We pulled up the analytics. It is less. We checked Sadboys. It is less than that.
Yeah, it's less. So there is a series, I think it's primarily popular with the younger generation, but there's more than meets the eye. But it is going to be, I don't want to give you any other context. I'm just going to show you this video. This is Skibidi Toilet Part 1. I think that's actually going to be the whole first season that we start with. But the original upload of this has 120 million views. On YouTube.
In what year was
this year?
This year, it's all happened. This, by the way, the channel blew up. It got all 30 million of those subscribers since May. Okay.
Yeah.
I have some guess, but I'm not going to say anything.
Okay. Cool.
And bear in mind that its performance versus your own is a meritocracy.
It's a meritocracy.
Worse than what this is.
It means you're worse than what this is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm emotionally prepared for that.
What the heck is going on
Skibidi dum dum yes yes. Skibidi dum dum dim dim. Skibidi dum dum yes yes. Skibidi dum dum dim dim.
So that was episode 1. This is actually a bunch of episodes back to back. But do you have any?
Oh, that was episode 1.
That was episode 1.
The credits. We skipped the credits.
Okay. First of all, love it.
Sick. Nice.
It's catchy.
Am I supposed to know the language that is being spoken? Or
No, actually, I will say because this will not give you any additional context. The song is a mix. It's a mashup between the Timbaland song featuring Nelly Furtado, "Give It to Me," and some Swedish song.
Gives it to me.
It's something yes or whatever. But I don't know what the actual song is, but that doesn't matter. But I do know the melody is from the Timbaland song.
Does that help?
Yeah,
it helps a lot.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so this is an upload of. Normally this is in shorts, and I just figured for the cinematography of this episode, it'd be nice to have the the full screen uploads. But Jacob, we can go ahead and play the rest of this. This is about to be, each of these is maybe 15, 20 seconds. So we're going to watch the next 45 seconds, which is going to be 4 episodes.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about it. And then I'm going to show you episode 67, which is where it is today. And I want to, it's going to be different. And so we'll see how we got
There's been an evolution?
There's been an evolution. Yeah. Okay. You can play, Jacob.
What the heck is going on here?
Okay.
Oh, maybe it got claimed?
Oh yeah, that
Possibly.
One, that
This
one
part
spot.
of it, but not the first.
Maybe skip to the 3rd episode.
What the heck is going on here?
Dum dum boom, yes, yes, skibidi dum dum deem deem, skibidi dum dum, yes, yes, skibidi dum dum deem.
What the heck is going
Oh,
on
okay.
here?
More toilets each time. I see
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, but you got some people eating dinner.
Some of the
the
lores.
toilets in there.
Some people having dinner on toilets.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there's like big toilets.
If Link's just in one of them.
Okay.
Season 1 down.
There's really a lot.
1
So
You look winded.
before you showed that to me, the thing that I thought I was about to see, which I know you got a point of reference because you talked about these types of videos, but there's like I guess they're Russian made.
Oh yeah.
The videos that always start
Yeah.
with something being in a toilet or something that
Yeah,
you
like
have to take
food
out
or
of a
something
toilet
like that.
or
Yeah.
Wendy is stuck in the toilet.
I think
Or
probably just globally off-putting. It grabs you by the ears.
And those are just absolutely blowing up. But that's been around for a few years now. So this is like this in and of itself is an evolution of that. And as a parent of a 15-year-old,
Sure.
and a college student and a 19-year-old. So the stuff that they sometimes send me, obviously there's been this like real leaning into the absurdist humor stuff that's
sure.
been happening, right? But it's gotten to a place where, and as someone who never wants to start feeling like it's slipping away, like my appreciation for whatever's cutting edge is slipping away, especially from like a comedic standpoint.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, okay. So the point of these things has become that there's nothing to grab onto. There's no tether, and that's what makes it work.
Well, this is where it gets. So before I say anything, let's watch part 1 of Skibidi Toilet 67. Which, by the way, can we just look at the views this has, Jacob, currently on YouTube? Episode 67. Was that 52 million?
52.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and it's 2 weeks ago? Cool.
Nice, cool.
So just wanted to clarify that's 52 million views in the last 2 weeks.
check my channel real quick.
You know what? Pretty low CPM, I would suggest today.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly demonetized. That song kept coding out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know if that was an official upload, but okay. Because I think sometimes the creator does like hide some videos for whatever reason. The channel history is a little bit, I'll get into it later. But okay, let's watch episode 67. Part 1, by the way, of 3.
Okay, wow. Things have gotten dark. All of a sudden, this stuff started happening?
Well, it was over the course of the last 60 episodes, but yeah, incrementally.
I suppose some things did happen in between, I'm realizing.
Who's the antagonist?
Well, that's a great question because it's actually up for debate.
I mean, I'm getting the sense that you didn't watch the other episode.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. This was like a setup.
Okay. So, Skibidi Toilet
You look dehydrated.
tells the story.
Yeah, there's
It's
just so
like
many things to sort out, you know?
This apocalyptic war between the Skibidi Toilets or the G-Man and the camera people. And that's kind of like on the surface, it's like the toilets and they're multiplying and maybe they're taking over humanity. And then there's the camera people who are fighting the toilets. And then the camera people have like there's also there's like different camera people with different types of cameras. And then there's like an escalation of all of that, that conflict. And that's like at its surface what we're looking at.
That's I'm sure you read that intuitively. I would guess that.
Oh,
much
yeah,
is
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
funny.
Yeah,
Just looking at the thumbnails.
there is like some would argue that it's a discourse on media, and like Matt Pat's theory was that it's a new media versus like old media type thing, where the camera people represent the Hollywood like machine. There's actually a big boss monster camera guy that attacks with like the THX sound and stuff like that. And so like there's kind of a lot to that side of the lore, but then there's also just maybe there's nothing to it. Like
I think I have, based on the little bit that and I'm just gonna. This is what happens on the internet. You get exposed to something and then you form a very
full opinion based on very minimal information. Yeah.
This is a theory. This is cynical. The first one. What was the time difference between episode 1 and episode 2? How much time elapsed?
How much development time?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, it was pilot season.
Yeah.
Because that could help determine. I don't know a lot about animation, but this is pretty rudimentary.
Well, so this is actually, this ties back to, I'll explain how this ties back to old YouTube. So, and just old internet in general. This, the models, this is either generated or, are you familiar with like Half-Life, Valve, those guys, like that kind of stuff?
Vaguely.
So like, Valve, which is like now primarily known for Steam, they were the developers of Half-Life, Team Fortress, these games, and Counter-Strike. And they also created this thing called Gary's Mod, which is more like a sandbox that allows you to create games, like really whatever you want with the Half-Life, with the source engine and with like the models and stuff that are in all the games.
Right.
And so the Skibidi Man is actually a character from Half-Life called the G-Man. And
so it's like a model that you could just kind of grab.
you could just use, yeah.
And all the others are like civilian face models from Half-Life 2 for the most part.
And
okay. This is building my theory.
Yes. So this is all like old school though. This is like machinima type shit. Like back in the day. And this creator actually has been on YouTube for like, I want to say a decade, but their oldest video now is 6 years old. And I'm pretty sure I saw something older when I was first like looking into this, like months ago. But they have always done, like they have always been honing the skill with the like they've done GTA 5 like type movies out of this stuff.
Okay.
And you start to see like their tropes in there. They love disembodied heads
and stuff had been working.
Yeah. They had 1 million subscribers, 2 million subscribers before any of the Skibidi Toilet stuff, but it was fairly niche. And then I think it's like they found something that was like working and then they like built up on it. So it's really interesting that like the person who is making all this stuff is probably like our age.
Oh yeah.
If I had to guess.
I mean, the assets and the references they're making are, I think, older than your son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's even, Matt Pat made this theory. I think it might be a bridge too far, but do you remember YouTube Poops? It's like very early YouTube absurdist humor, compilation, non sequitur like humor, basically.
Okay.
SpongeBob eating his own feet or something.
Yeah. And then like he was connecting a YouTube poop to the fact that they're like in toilets. And it's like, and I'm like
the text literally.
Like, and I'm like, maybe just because of where, the Defuck Boom, who's the name of this creator, he would be the right age for all of those references to come up on all of that, like Newgrounds, albino black sheep type stuff. So I don't know. And I think that it's important that I don't know. I think it's important that you can't just like figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about people reading meaning and symbolism into something is that it's just regardless of the intention, people do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the contract you sign by releasing something into the world.
And you can kind of never know. So, I mean, my cynical theory was going to be another thing in this genre in a long line of things that this guy had done. And this one, for some reason, popped. And then it's just like, I can continue this particular story. I can basically, the beauty of it is you can make any decision at all.
Yeah.
To send it in any direction at all. And now you've just got people who are on board for it.
I think that that's where I land more or less that's where I'm at too. Because I think as creators, especially, like, I think it's amazing that this creator was like kind of they've not deviated from their craft. They've just been honing it in different ways and packaging it in different ways. And then something hit in like a crazy huge way. And they had the skills and the ability to like lean into that and like put the foot on the gas with that. And I think that that's like amazing.
Do you think that the people who legitimately enjoy this, enjoy things for the same reason that you enjoy things?
I think that it depends, because I think have you watched a modern Mr. Beast video?
Yeah.
So a lot of Mr. Beast videos to me, and this is actually not shade to Mr. Beast, it's more about the strategy, feel like they're very specifically targeting different audiences with different parts of the video. It'll be like, we're going to do this challenge, and for some reason we're going to have a big explosion as well. You know what I mean? It's like, what does this explosion have to do with anything? Does it have to do with the competition?
Well, so this is a good way to talk about like why people enjoy things and like what the motivation is behind the creation, right? Because I think that the thing that no one can argue, like, you say what you will about Jimmy, the thing that he has mastered is engagement, right? And when you look at his videos, you're like, okay, it is clear to me that the starting point and the ultimate goal of these videos is engagement.
Yeah.
And so where does that goal lead you? It leads you to a Mr. Beast video.
Right.
Now, is that personally something that I want to make? No. Is it personally something that I want to entertain myself with? No. However, the stuff that I want to make and the stuff that I want to entertain myself with is never going to have the level of engagement that he has. Right?
Yeah.
And so, but back to the 15-year-old son.
Yeah.
When we talk about music, so we have like this music that we both enjoy, and he's actually got great musical taste. But then, like, as he's gotten to his teenage years, there's been the sort of individuation where he starts to like things that I think is just objectively horrible, right? And this is like a good development. I want you to like music that I hate. But one of the things that's happened in his friend group is you find a band, and the two boxes that you want to check is A, no one in the friend group knows about this band, and B, they all like it.
Right.
And so now they've got this thing. And isn't this, now the fact that it's this popular kind of goes against this theory, but isn't this like a 15-year-old, say, who's like really enjoying this and sharing it with his or her friends, isn't it kind of like, but are they sitting around having like philosophical conversations about this? Or is it like, oh, this is where it's going now? Isn't no one? It's cool to like this.
It's cool. I think there's a bit of both, but also when I was like 13, I was watching videos of, among other things, videos of like stick figures brutally murdering each other. You know what I mean? Like in that, there wasn't anything.
Some chow on Newgrounds.
Yeah, there wasn't anything to that, but it was the this is sick.
Yeah.
This is, and I feel like this appeals to that little corner.
Yeah.
Of, and like this could be that maybe this audience's version of what that was for me. And also this is packaged, you know, I was showing you the like widescreen version of this, but most of the views and most of the episodes fit into a shorts length.
Yeah.
And this is like most of the views here are happening on YouTube Shorts. And so you are now watching a narrative story because there are like, you know, there is a clear passage of time in this story. There are characters, stuff happens to those characters. Some go away, some transform. You know, there's new things represented. It feels like it has all the dramatic beats that any sort of, you know, action story would have, but it's packaged for a short form thing.
Yeah.
And I think that everything that I know about YouTube would tell me that there's no way that could work. You know what I mean?
And to see it work just like crushingly well.
Yeah. And that's really, it's super interesting.
Yeah. It almost becomes impossible to enjoy. Because all it does is just makes you ask all these questions.
Right.
Well, it's the text and the subtext, right? Like what it is the head in the toilet and then the robot and then some fighting happened in a big field. The subtext of that, there's catharsis in throwing ideas around and a fun dialogue, and there's plenty of the shares are just coming from people going, this is fucking stupid. Plenty of people sharing it going, why is this so popular? And then that builds a contingency of, I don't know, 10% of the views just being confusion. But at the same time, I think I lose track of this with some mediums, and we all do with different mediums. But take music for an example. The end result is short and immediate, and maybe you enjoy the track, maybe you enjoy the band, maybe it doesn't resonate with you, but you can say objectively, I can kind of see the appeal of this. If you write a melody, you don't really know why you like it. You can try and make it more substantial, and you can say like, oh, it's like a key signature that puts people in a good mood, and people like this time signature. It's not too overwhelming. It's pretty straightforward.
Right.
But the fact that this particular melody makes you remember the pasta that your dad used to make,
Yeah.
that doesn't really intuitively make any sense. And maybe that's not even what the lyrics are about, but it's tickling some part of your mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a little epic random, right? There's suddenly a robot and suddenly this is happening, but there's a reason that's the joke. They could have gone, why is it sci-fi? It didn't have to be sci-fi. They might not have the answers to the question because they just intuitively kind of came out.
I was getting coffee with a comedy writer friend of mine, and they were talking about how in writers' rooms, it's sometimes this combination, this mishmash of people who have an intuitive feeling about comedy and like Harvard Lampoon, like math-minded brains, like, let me explain the math of the joke, right? And then sometimes those two forces can get at odds because one person is saying, you know, I need someone to explain to me what the equation is of how this lands on a laugh, and the other person is saying, I think someone should fart, you know, and that's just it. You know what I mean? And I think there's always going to be two like ways to approach things, and a gap between the like sort of intuition and the math of it all, be it art, be it music, be it comedy, like, and that like there's a spectrum, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and it's somewhere in the middle.
Well, and we're definitely in this absurdist place right now,
like as a society.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of makes sense just based on everything that's been going on. But just kind of the way that the thing that you're trying to accomplish in like a TikTok sketch is a left turn that no one could have anticipated,
right?
And I just imagine like, okay, you can hang out in that space for like a generation, right? And then like, what's the next generation and the next generation? Like, when are they going to, okay, we're going to get back to like a who's on first. type thing or a physical thing, and then like the mathematical, like the setup punchline. This is why this works. This is this is the relatable thing that you're trying to get somebody to latch onto, and this is the expectation that you're looking to subvert, which is like where most of every joke that I'll ever come up with or anything that I'll write is going to live.
Yeah.
There's this part of me that's just like, okay, I'm trying to hang on to this, but when you feel like you can't feed into it, because it's like me feeding into this is like the way that my brain makes fun of it is like, oh, I'm just going to do something random.
Right.
And if I'm just doing something random for the sake of it being random, then I feel like I'm not really contributing to this. Like I
mean, that's also a self-critique kind of mindset as well, right? Because you have such a specific relationship with every joke you've ever told in your entire life. Yeah. Everything you've ever laughed at, younger versions of yourself that would like X or Y thing. When in reality, whatever you end up publishing, if any part of you finds it funny, a bunch of people are also going to find it funny because they exist in the same world and laugh.
Right. Yeah. Like if you were, the easiest way to explain this is with AI, because I guess it's like a thing that everyone kind of understands. AI trains on data and then it spits something out. It's like if you had an AI that was fed on all of the comedy of the 70s, then you would like with someone who goes through life, you like combine that stimulus with like the life experience of growing up in that time, you get some sort of, which adds the transformation on that, like that formula. Then that's, I feel like how it starts to evolve. And then like that sort of keeps compounding. So yeah, I feel like at some point we've gotten from like advice animals, like memes to like, like hyper absurdist, super dark jokes about like, and it just reflects society, but it also reflects like an advice animals meme feels very much like a Obama optimism, like hope campaign.
Pod Save America type.
Yeah. And then like in today's day, it's like you might get like something super dark and doomer and absurdist in that way that is almost like relinquishing control because sometimes the world feels so oppressive and there's no way out of the pain, and like, and both of those things feel like reflections of their environment and time. And
and there seems like I think this as an entertainer, but also somebody with like this performance mindset that I am constantly trying to move beyond. But like you want to continue contributing to it, like to the things that matter or whatever. But to go back to the music example, if you take like a band that's been around forever, it's hard to, I can't point to an example of a band that, became popular 40 years ago.
Right.
That then kept updating to try to play what was the most relevant thing. Ironically, a band that did this because of the way they were using music is DC Talk, which was a Christian band in the 80s and 90s, really. It was sort of their heyday. But they would take like whatever was popping. So if it was like, Smells Like Teen Spirit is popping, so we're going to basically do the exact same riff, but make it a song about Jesus. And then they kept kind of lagging about a year or two behind whatever was popular because they were using music as a utility to like get a message across.
Weird Al.
Yeah, right. Well, Weird Al is the perfect example because he's following this trend.
I'm thinking of, because he's able to, the equation of I take what's out there and then I parody it feels like it works for longer.
And you would hate that band that was doing that. You're like,
you would hate a band that was doing it earnestly. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, we're always just trying to remain relevant. Like, cause like everyone's talking about the new Rolling Stones album, or a lot of people are. Yeah. And I like sat down and listened to it as somebody who's not like a huge Stones fan, but there's a couple albums that I'm really into. And I was like, this just sounds like 80-year-old guys playing rock. And I'm not into it. Right.
It feels like disingenuous.
So
no, it just feels like they're kind of doing the same thing, but kind of like at a part in the evolution of their career where I wasn't interested in anymore.
Right.
ultimately, what I'm trying to do is I'm grappling with the, like, when I see something like this, I'm just like, yeah, I think the bus has, I got off at this bus stop, and the bus is continuing on. And whoever shows up at this bus stop, I'm going to entertain the hell out of them.
Maybe it's like a palate thing where the last thing we can do to enjoy this, because our taste buds have kind of numbed over time and been exposed to so many things, is, I don't know, eat the spiciest chili, which is this conversation.
Yeah, right.
Instead of thinking about it as much as possible, because the fun, quick version is just, wait, what's that? What's going on? And then I need to do something with it.
I have two thoughts about this. One is just something about the, like, electing as an artist to, like, step back is, Andre 3000 of Outkast.
He's got the Flute album coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, has said so many times on record, like, he's been asked, are you ever going to put out another, like, hip hop album? And he's like, I'm not of the moment anymore. Like, the way that I would create, like, I don't want to pretend, I don't want to chase this current sound.
Smart. Yeah.
Not
just smart, but it's just like, it's a high level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And where you're making a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, he is dinged.
Because he could easily cash in on it more.
Oh, for sure. I think
Get some features on some. I mean, what was the last feature we did? The Frank Ocean.
The Frank Ocean solo feature. He's definitely done something since then, but that was cool. I think someone else who's really interesting with this is like J. Cole, who is like not. I think he's kind of found a pocket where it's like, I'm not going to change. Like, I'm not going to copy the trending sound, but I am going to, like, show up on these, like, popping artists, and I'm going to hang with them. You know what I mean?
And promote them.
And promote them and produce them. And then I think it gives them a lot of respect, but then also we do not live in a lyrical miracle, like, era of rap anymore, where it's like J. Cole's, like, oldest, like, if you find the stuff that he was putting out on forums and stuff when he was like 14, sounds like Eminem songs, because it was like, that was like his influence, where it's like, I'm gonna do as much internal rhyme and shit as possible. And then,
because
like,
that was the kudos. That's what the very good thing was.
And then but then, like, now there's like influences of modern, but ultimately he is not deviated from, like, I am going to put together the best possible bars, and I'm not going to, he has that song 1985 that basically like it's aged actually like wine, which is crazy, because it's like this, it's very much this old man, let me sit you down young, like SoundCloud rapper, and explain to you, the music industry and how this is going to go. And then goes, but by the way, my style is ageless and I will never fall off. And then like everyone who, like, I think it was, do you remember who it was that was like the inspiration? Who was the Fuck J. Cole guy?
Oh, I remember Fontana talking about it.
Oh, there you go. But anyway, like, he's the anti-Drake in that way, because like 2010 were like Drake, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. Those are the guys right now, the future face of hip hop. And Drake has gone the path of, I am going to try to become the biggest possible pop artist that I can, and I'm going to hop on everyone. I'm going to culture vulture every, like, these are the allegations, every possible trending artist. There's so many stories of people that have one song that's popping off, then Drake hops on the remix, and then like maybe signs that artist or steals something from that artist, and then like moves on. He's like seemingly like scavenging for relevance. Yeah. And to success, by the way.
It's still working.
It's still working, but like he has lost a lot of respect for that, because he's no longer seen as a rapper. He's like clearly just trying to like be I don't know what he's shooting for. I don't know what the goal is, but he's succeeding at something.
He wants to continue being Drake.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Right? I mean, it's like once you have that, and it's, I mean, as content creators, like, you want to keep creating content,
right.
and so you do, and it's like, you're not trying to, obviously I've been making the same show for 12 years that has changed very little. It's a thing that works, and you want to focus on the thing that you know that you can uniquely offer to the world, whatever, and whoever's on board. And if it's an aging audience that is just like, this is what I'm into, and then when we die, this thing will will die. Like, chasing that relevance is like that's a losing game.
I think if you made some really, really conscious and deliberate changes to like the structure or the format or the content or the editing of what you're putting out, even if you didn't get a ton of comments saying that, like pointing out the thing that's changed, just intuitively something in the lizard brain of the audience is going to be like, this is off-putting. This is wrong. It's like when a baby sees their dad after shaving for the first time. And the baby's like, this is wrong. Your face is wrong. What happened? They might not be able to say why.
But there's also natural evolution as well. You're allowed to change and grow. And
you got to find that balance.
Do you guys have to say kind of no sometimes, at least internally, to here's something we think we could do to optimize the content. Here's something that maybe is a little more cynical.
There's some things that we try. So, I mean, one of the things that it makes this, like as a creative person, makes this something that is like tolerable, that the thing being feel like you're stuck in a little bit of a lane. Like the show kind of has to be the show. The fact that we can go off and do other things, like we've been experimenting a bunch on the original Rhett and Link channel with longer form stuff, and we've got plans for next year to like really dig into that, and that's really scratching that creative itch in a way. GMM, because it's more of like a comfort YouTube type show, we do have to be conscious of that. Like we've tried things like a couple of seasons ago. Let's instead of starting with the so and so, let's talk about that. We were like, let's show for engagement. Let's show like the thing that you're about to see. Let's Mr. Beast it. Let's show the thing that you're about to see. And that lasted. I don't even think we made it through a season. Because it was just like, you ruined this thing. This isn't about whether or not it's more engaging to a new audience member. It's like this thing that you guys say, let's talk about that, even though you haven't really talked about anything in a long time.
I never thought about it like that.
You can't take that away.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, I guess we can't take that away. It's like, that's as long as GMM is a thing, it's going to start with one of us saying something and the other one saying, let's talk about that.
Well, it's like, you look at something like The Tonight Show and that's like, I feel like the closest, GMM is like the closest thing YouTube has to like that. It's like an institution wise too. Whenever the host changes, it's like a big, everyone freaks out, or then people, or like SNL, everybody has their favorite SNL cast and era, and some people go and some people stay, and it's so interesting. Or some people, I finally started getting, I've been doing YouTube just long enough to start getting, I watched you in high school, or I used to watch you in middle school type, things.
Yeah. That's the most common thing.
And so it's like, I think this is like well understood if you like our, if you're YouTube maxing, if you're actually trying to maximize everything YouTube, that you can either go for an aging audience, age with your audience, or you can target the same demo and then let that demo age out, every single time. So it's like they age with you, or you have a sliding window of audience.
And does what you make really transfer to someone else, or are you uniquely talented in this audience? And I guess you just don't know until you fail or whatever.
Yeah. And you want to make something that is somewhat timeless, right? But the idea of something being timeless on YouTube, like that's just it's a very, like the idea that somebody would sit down 50 years from now and watch an episode of Good Mythical Morning for any reason other than like they're doing a presentation on the evolution of YouTube. You know
Look
what I'm saying?
how bad it used to be.
I mean,
right.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I just see this from watching old videos, like music videos sometimes. I bet if you go to those earlier episodes, there's someone who's still watching this in 2023.
Yeah.
It's got like a bunch of likes.
There's something I find not just something that I'm in, but really watching anything in our space that's older than a year or two, I find it maybe almost kind of overwhelming. Like, oh, things were so different here. Or if it takes place in 2020 or 2021, I'm like, oh, we weren't even humans then. The world was on
We
fire.
had no idea what was
I can't even relate in a fictional way.
Yeah,
to
if I
this
get
thing.
recommended a video of our friend Eddie Burback and he doesn't have a mustache, I delete the tab.
I call him and I say, what
I
is
go, no, you need to Photoshop a mustache onto these, dude. No one's gonna click on this video.
Eddie, did you know this is still up?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Hey, heads up, dude. Are you available for a call real quick? This is important.
You made a mistake.
yeah.
I mean, you guys are also responsible, I'm sure, for new people every day coming in and kind of building a foundation of what they like a young enough audience. Every now and then young enough people will come in and go, oh, I guess this is what funny is. I like this is the tone of YouTube that I enjoy. Or like, I know people that got into YouTube via video essays, the essayists that we know, and then that essayist takes or often streamer takes a break and they're like, oh, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I like watching or listening. I listen to the podcast, singular. That's what I do.
Well, and then when you find out that they like it for a reason that you didn't intend, which is really with something like Good Mythical Morning, which is not like, it's not a music video. It's not a sketch that's like this crafted thing. It's like, who knows what's going to happen? The unexpected, unpredictable things are the things that make people remember it. Or you're just like, oh, people, they're not necessarily watching because they think, I mean, some people are like, yeah, you're really funny, but it might be like, I just like the idea. If the three of us were hanging out, it would be cool.
Right.
It makes me, it's comforting.
Well, that's impossible
right?
to project into because we are hanging out.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. What if the three of us hung out, did podcasts?
I mean, that's
Yeah.
a lot of our, I think there's a huge core audience. We like make jokes about this all the time, where I just know that it's like people doing something else and putting this on gives them comfort.
Oh,
And I know that because I do that with my comfort stuff. You know what I mean?
It's like an instrumental album.
Yeah, it's like
just
people
there.
are like, I can't do dishes without this
we.
video.
I have a name for that guy because we talked about this on an episode of Good Mythical More, and I addressed him as Barry, like Barry vacuuming right now, and I normally yell at him, but it's just like, Barry, pay attention, because I know you're not paying attention right now. This part's important.
We did our most recent Patreon episode, Sadboyz Nightz, patreon.com/sadboyz. I did some hyper specific call out, but it wasn't a name. It was like, I know there's an art student right now on their tablet in Procreate, like this art app, like working on something, and then like someone
Do I find it?
like it was like, yeah, it was like in the in our group chat. What did they say?
There was a immediate reply on the Patreon. As a university student in Jersey who is currently on Procreate drawing on his iPad, that was absolutely terrifying.
I did say I did also give it a location, but
Well,
yeah,
it's sort of it's like the thing. There was a 700 Club, which was Pat Robertson. It was like the Christian call-in show, or the show where they would talk about, like, he would be like, there's somebody right now who feels a little tickle in their ankle,
Oh, right, yeah.
and it's cancer.
oh no,
but we are healing it right now. And the guy's like, oh shit.
I mean,
Oh, hold on, thank you.
the dark side of that is there's a type of scam where you send 1,000 emails with stock picks. You split them in half. You say the stock goes up, the stock goes down. Then for the next 500 people where you were right because you pick both options, you pick again. And then at the end, you've got 20 people who you are Nostradamus and you've predicted, the stock market 12 weeks in a row. And now you sell them something.
Yeah, you join me for
Wow.
the 13th. Right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
Thanks for the idea.
I mean, that's kind of what algorithm optimization is in a way. It's like,
A/B testing.
let's try this thumbnail, and I guess people didn't like that.
Except you're A/B testing the future. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I feel like we did a good job today.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think this was great.
We explored some, existential things about the world that we live in while making the thing that
Yeah.
we make.
I do love being meta.
And and also we're kind of giving a shout out to Jack, who is on their iPad right now, sketching in university, I believe in Jersey.
Who feels a tingle in his right ankle?
have terrible
That is
news.
definitely cancer.
But
He's
not.
He's healing
It's
it.
not.
He's
It's
healing
not.
it.
It's
no, it's
not.
not anymore. I healed it.
He healed it.
Yeah.
Just for a second.
An insane show. To make that the idea of like you're still positioned with a microphone and somebody running the boards, and then telling someone they might die if it isn't for your cool brain.
Oh yeah. That's yeah.
But yeah, Rhett, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Sorry I was late.
Oh no, don't even worry about it.
Well, I mean, if we're bringing it up,
Well, the funny thing is to address it, because I wasn't just late. I was over an hour late.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
it's all
so
good.
to be clear, I know you don't care, but as someone who like sees himself as like I'm a responsible content creator.
yeah.
I know if you deal with content creators on a regular basis, hour late is just like this is probably the average.
All right, we should tell him the Hassan story after this. Continue.
But I'm
It's
like,
all jazz.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm a 5 minute, 10 minute
Right,
early
sure,
guy.
sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I was at this. I had to tell you about this. I was going to tell you earlier, but
yeah.
I was at this strange event that we got invited to. That was like, let's put some YouTube creators in a room with like some Hollywood producers type people, because there's somebody I guess at YouTube is like, if we put these people in the room together, let's see. We can bridge the divide, figure things out, whatever.
brothers.
I was happy to be there.
Sure.
But it was one of those situations where I kept getting put into a conversation, and it was sort of like, all right, tell this person who doesn't have any idea of what you do, give them what you do, why it's important, why they should care about it or whatever. And it was like a really weird headspace to be like explaining your career to this person, like giving them the like 5 minute spiel over and over again. And then I looked at my watch and it was 3:20.
Oh no.
Because I'd been like put into this weird space where I was just like being taken around to different conversations.
You like lose track of.
And then I was like, oh, how long?
Clocks.
It's not going to take that long to get to Jarvis from here, but it was an hour and 10 minutes or whatever.
Well, it's also
this was in Vegas.
raining. It's also raining, which exacerbates traffic.
Oh, yeah. It was
There's like
nuts.
a fire on the I-10 that's like shut down the highway.
Yeah, things
for like
have changed.
3 months.
It's especially bad right now.
I think it is the rapture. I think it's what's maybe
bad.
happening.
But no, thank you so much. And we were listening. I didn't get a chance to say this. We were listening to your new EP while we were setting up, and it's really, you have such a beautiful voice. I wanted
thanks,
to say
man.
that. Yeah. And everyone should check it out. James and the Shame on Spotify, wherever you get music.
And I will say, as niche as the first album was mostly about deconstruction. The second album was just country music.
Hey,
Country Americana. If you don't think like the idea of deconstruction music, well, that's not what this one's. This is more, 2 love songs to my wife. I mean, out of 6 songs, you can't beat that.
You love your wife about a third of an album.
Yeah, a third of an album.
Okay.
other than James and the Shame's new EP, is there anything else you want to promote?
The thing that Link and I are really trying to get people to care about right now in the Rhett and Link world is the stuff we're doing on the original Rhett and Link channel.
Oh, yeah.
That so many people have kind of forgotten about. You know, there's a bunch of videos that we put up this year that we feel really good about. We're kind of like figuring out the way that we want to tell stories and explore things, but we've got a really cool team working on that content. We've kind of arrived at what we think is the genre that we want to move more into in 2024. But check out some of those ridiculous videos that are, there's a lot of passion in each one of those. We're spending more time with each one.
Yeah, and it's like nothing's happening to Good Mythical Morning.
Yeah, it's not a threat. It's not to
It's not a
replace
threat.
anything. And we've got big plans for 2024.
Awesome.
We'll talk about how we want to go about that when we're ready to talk about it. But just so go over there and subscribe to the original Rhett and Link channel.
Yeah.
Lots of content
Pay your
coming.
respects and check out the new stuff.
And if you have been the entire time, go back and go, wow, I remember subscribing to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go comment on the oldest Rhett and Link video you can find and say, who's still watching this in 2023?
Do one of those unsettling comments where somebody's like, I started listening to Sad Boys when I was in utero. And now me and my 40-year-old son listen every day on the way to work.
Yeah.
The post-apocalypse.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we end every episode of Sad Boys with a particular phrase. We love you.
And we're sorry.
Boom! We are, among other things, going back to the horny chef man.
Oh yeah.
He won't stop.
This is the
and he's already gone viral again.
She's next in line.
Did you catch it?
Wait, is it?
He spoke.
First, make your best cheesecake recipe in the description.
Pause. Of course he's Australian.
Gucci girl, how you doing? How you moving, girl? Moving, girl. How's your day looking? That future girl, yeah, we on now. Take my money, go away, all you want it.
Girl, too rich for me.